My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. The following is documented in video evidence, which is also going to be published to the Google Drive, which is where the body of evidence resides to prosecute the state of California, and also the YouTube channel, where the ongoing evidence, which is updated as of November of 2024, well, you will see the ongoing terrorism as an entity that is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, acting in furtherance of the conspiracy to murder and or kidnap an American citizen whom they are criminally keeping under surveillance in concert with the people of the state, and it is demonic. This video evidence is published, and this video was captured November 7, 2024 at 5:45 p.m. All right, that's an airplane right here, and the entity is stalking in helicopter. They're vibrating the apartment. This is Mike Lorenz, end of his career in law enforcement. Still to date, engaging in what is sexual violence, keeping a woman under surveillance. They're also monitoring me via helicopters when my panties are down and my genitalia is exposed. These are demons that are targeting. Flying over the apartment building does not create the thunderous, ongoing, sensational, and audible activity. Those are demons that are targeting. You also know that because of the impossible light activity. Tracy Banks is on the phone with Daryl Mandy. He's monitoring. They're engaged in Title 18, and these are demons stalking in the path with light activity. This is P.O.C. Everybody in units 33 through 64 are going to federal prison. They're engaged in 24-hour surveillance with the corrupt police. She's walking into the kitchen. She's monitoring. They're stalking in the path with light activity. This is exactly what they do under the fake sun that's rising and setting here at Woodside Senior Apartments. That audible activity on a communication device is achieving the elements of monitoring, and that is indeed Daryl Mandy. This is my shadow up front. This is my shadow on the ground. This is impossible light activity, not the product of the light fixtures. And the entity is indeed going to federal prison. I'm going to document this third party because they're going. The people of the state at Woodside, by address, they're all going to be prosecuted. The Ontario International Airport's engaged in surveillance, and this demon is engaged in lying in wait, crossing path as I move. My shadows on the ground is speaking to that. That's impossible light activity. This third party is 8PDK664, and you have a department full of sex offenders who are monitoring my genitalia. Mike Lorenz is the terrorist leader over that corrupt department. The Ontario Police is going to cease to exist. They are engaging in and facilitating criminal conduct. That's the fake moon, and you are looking at my documentation showing you a fake sun that's in over this property as well. This is what was captured at Alvarado Gardens, where the fake sun and the fake moon remained over that apartment complex for the duration of the day, while the LAPD, under the terrorist leader Dominic Choi at that time, who have not escaped prosecution, engaging in this state system. This is P.O.C. This is Tracy Banks that's maintaining presence in the path. My shadow is moving along the walls here. All right, and here's my shot on the ground here. It's terrorism while your apartment is vibrating, sounding as though there's an earthquake. It's terrorism while you're surrounded by the impossible light activity that I'm documenting cycling inside of the apartment. It's terrorism while demons that are living in a demonic environment are keeping you and your genitalia under surveillance with the corrupt police department that's committing use of their helicopters to stalk you. All right, and they're monitoring the evidence that's being published online. They're all going to federal prison. This is documentation of impunity, and the federal government's going to prosecute the entire state. That's crossing a path. That's the significance of having a population living in the specific environment. She's simultaneously multiple shadows going in all directions while she's monitoring you just walking by. This is P.O.C. It's currently 5:43 p.m. The ongoing concern, I will finish this documentation, and then I'll walk inside. What's not concerned is the ongoing terrorism by helicopter while you're looking at audible activity creation by the demons that live here and by the demons that are inside of this apartment monitoring with that police that just flew over her apartment. Okay, this is POC, not concerned for my safety, monitoring on a communication device with regard to the pattern of conduct while I'm in the kitchen, the ongoing terrorism while the entire apartment starts shaking violently, and then you're looking at crossing a path. This entire property is full of senior citizens who are going to federal prison, 33 through 64. They're all going to federal prison. The state of California is going to be prosecuted for what the Ontario Police Department, which represents the state, what they're doing with an entire... Ontario is a group stalker. Okay, the demons over the airport, the demons that are over the city council, the demons that are literally over the fire department, over the ambulance personnel, they're all engaged in state surveillance, and the body of evidence shows that. And they're demons under a fake sun, which is centered over Woodside Senior in conformity to the pattern of conduct. It is currently 5:44 p.m. This is the prosecution, the removal of Mike Lorenz. That's a sex offender. He's a terrorist, and he's stalking with the demons that are flying in helicopters. And that name of that particular demon, they're going to federal prison. This is POC. That third party is going to federal prison as well. It is currently Thursday, November 7th, 2024. It's still 10:57 p.m. The video documentation that I'm including in the podcast was captured moments ago. What you hear in the background is amplified. The neighborhood is also being prosecuted. That's the state. A bunch of demons that are pacing around on the roads and the highways while I make a move, which a whole population is engaging in. Also, when I'm in a bathroom, the same population is obsessed with my genitalia, monitoring that as well. The state is a sex offender, and so is license 9CZC059. This is the overweight Latina female who is in custody of at least 2 minor children, group stalking with all of the males that live at the third-party facilitating venue. That is attributing AVANATH directly engaged in group stalking by its employees and its residents, with the police who are pacing back and forth in relevant position and into your light amongst amplified audible activity, including right now. And this video documentation that I am going to publish was indeed captured. It is for the prosecution of the entire state, and the prosecution of, again, this apartment complex includes what are third parties that are engaged in state surveillance, which this is acting toward the ongoing criminal conspiracy. The police department that you see stalking me in helicopter is the same police department representing the state that's actively engaged in the criminal purpose of trying to murder and kidnap me. Kidnapping by necessarily defaming you, the entity, in order to engage in abusing and masquerading as having authority under the law, must defame you as either a criminal or mentally ill, while their mental illness is on full display, stalking an American citizen in helicopter, and doing so while exhibiting demon possession. That's why they are flying in circles in the specific environment where I've already shown you the fake sun, the light source. That is not the natural environment. It's literally present, rising and setting at Woodside Senior Apartments. That's impossible to coexist with the documentation, which I intentionally maintain and have published for the world to witness. Not only the demise of a sex offender, that is a public entity, the state of California, filled with a population of obsessed sex offenders who are stalking corporately. It is referred to as gang stalking, group stalking. I refer to it properly with regard to the legal implications as federal group stalking and monitoring. And it is a violent sex offense that a police department is engaging in while they're stalking in helicopters. And you see my shadow in the video surrounding me. That's a specific environment that is intentionally present for the criminal purposes of a malicious system of surveillance, which is satanic in nature. That's how you're understanding and rectifying and connecting the dots regarding that unnatural environment and the behavior of everyone in that environment. And that license plate of that third party, this is a sex offender who's currently in custody of minor children, and by virtue of engaging in group stalking on yet another day with the state who you see in the video, stalking in helicopter, She, who represents, again, the same household that AVANATH is paying a salary to, that is working for the company, that's a group stalker. And the company is a group stalker by virtue of state surveillance by the entity on your real property. And you will be civilly and criminally prosecuted. This is changing the landscape in this country, where the states are indeed engaged in targeting American citizens, trying to murder and kidnap them, falsely depict their character, in other words, as they try to sacrifice them. Group stalking is a satanic system. What is also relevant is the license plate of that third party. She is going to federal prison, and so is her father. I believe that, I don't know what the familial relationship is, but I believe they're all over the age of majority, except for the 2 minor children whom they are systematically abusing, including them in the sex offensive group stalking, as I've documented that on many, many occasions, living at a crime scene in custody of minor children while you're threatening and conspiring while exhibiting demon possession, the ongoing proclivity towards sexual violence, proclivity toward conspiring against an innocent person, toward their demise, and the outrageously malicious system of group stalking. You're a threat to those children as well. You're also abusing them while you're group stalking with them, and via having them in that unstable and very chaotic and dangerous environment. She's losing custody of her children, in other words, and she is group stalking. You will see the impossible light activity while the demons of the Ontario PD are flying around in circles. Again, I'm just going over the evidence. This is a demon, and then she's on video keeping her head down. She's monitoring while she's walking around having multiple shadows. The demons don't have to speak to you. They don't have to reference you. It is your ability to know now the fact that what the condition of those who surround you and what they're engaging in by the breakdown that the P.O.C. provides to the public, in order to recognize not only the demon possession, but the malicious engagement by an entity that is targeting you for the purpose. They're not just stalking you for fun. They're stalking you because they're trying to murder you. They want to kill you. They want to sacrifice you to Satan himself. This is demonic activity, and where your own blood relatives are engaging in that, every single last person that you know by name is going to federal prison. The entity engages in criminal acts that also further establish and corroborate the conspiracy against an American citizen's life. For example, assuming your identity, engaging in any fraudulent acts against you, engaging in any acts of harassment and terrorism, as I'm also documenting. And so at the same time, inside of apartment 55, which you will see in the wealth of documentation that I maintain on a daily basis. All right, this is an overweight, it appears as though she has no neck. This is a senior citizen living in apartment 55. Her license 5WUB, as in boy 715. She is going to federal prison. She represents the entire state. Why? Because only that demon lives in apartment 55. However, she is maintaining the entity's engagement and corporate elements of monitoring, meaning everyone is stalking with light. Everyone is stalking in the path wherever it is that I go, while everyone is engaged in an ongoing corporate act of maintaining presence in that specific environment, where the state is stalking, as I captured again, in helicopter. It's pointing directly toward the mayor, who knows exactly what's going on in the city, while he is a part of the population in that city, and ongoing stalking. Because that's what you're doing when you're following from place to place in helicopters. That's what you're doing when you're remaining in helicopters. And as you know, and the feds most importantly know, you are stalking in helicopters in a manner that is very specific and very detailed. It is very precise. In other words, it is very capable of being able to determine who's being targeted, as opposed to what the demons first thought, never anticipating the body of evidence showing the demonic system of targeting. And this is the entity that, first of all, it's unlawful in violation of existing laws to do what the entity is doing in planes and helicopters, violating existing zoning laws. This is common sense. The reason why the people of the state aren't complaining about the apartment is vibrating and shaking, and they're loudly flying over in planes and helicopters all hours of the day and night. The reason why is because these are demons who are stalking with the state. They're living under the fake sun. They're living amongst the engineered light. It's ongoing, concerted conduct. There is a reason why no one has noticed their shadow flies all across the place. That's not normal or natural light activity. It's enabling demons who know exactly who you are. And they also know the moment when your panties are down and your legs are spread open, your genitalia is exposed. They like to monitor you then as well. They like to be fully engaged in and engaging in group stalking, the elements of monitoring, while they corporately maintain that criminal surveillance system, including by helicopters and planes, while you're in a private space such as a bathroom, while you're living in your castle where the entity has no warrant or probable cause to keep you under surveillance in such a space, doing so for the entirely illegitimate purpose of sacrificing you. That is legally referred to, because sacrifice is in reference to what Ontario Police Department, they serve Satan. They're trying to engage in what is a failed sacrifice. Their mental illness is exposed while that failed sacrifice, by virtue of the secrecy, is gone. The body of evidence for what you are and what you've been doing for years is not only is it known, but it's published on the internet, and you're waiting until you're going to be raided. You're going to federal. Jason Knighton's going to federal prison. A. Morris is going to federal prison. Jay Burnett of the Ontario Police Department, he's going to federal prison. L. Keys is going to federal prison. Every demon whose badge number I document is going to federal prison. The entity is going to provide the names of all the demons that are engaged in stalking and helicopters. They're all going to federal prison. Mike LORENZ is not accepted, and neither is Derek Williams, who I believe he retired. There is no retirement for from the prosecution for federal group stalking and monitoring, which was occurring on his watch, which he was directly engaged in. And neither one of those terrorist leaders are exempt from federal prison. I just want to make sure that that's abundantly clear. Just like Osama bin Laden, a terrorist leader, fully engaged in and aware of and leading in terrorism, amongst those that share and we'll just say, just like apparently in this country, the entity has its own satanic agenda. Those that are terrorists from abroad, Osama bin Laden is a terrorist leader over those that were engaging in acts of terrorism against American citizens pursuant to their own agenda. Okay, this is at a macro level, understanding what's going on in the United States. And unfortunately, the reality is that Osama bin Laden is not different from Mike LORENZ, is not different from Shannon Dykes. Okay, the terrorist leader over a corrupt law enforcement agency. Law enforcement is given unfettered discretion in this country based on the presumption that they are acting in conformity to that which they took an oath to respect, to uphold. That is the laws. They're supposed to be protecting and serving me, not trying to kidnap and silence me, sexually violate me, sacrifice me unto their leader, Satan, because that's exactly who they serve. All right, that's not what they're supposed to be doing. And in the United States, because of the placement of law enforcement in this country and the role that they have in the executive branch, this is terrorism that's occurring in the United States. And it's literally at the beginning grounds with the corrupt law enforcement agencies. And that is why, amongst many other reasons, you are going to federal prison for group stalking while being a police officer. Period. You're going to federal prison. So there are a lot who are a part of the Ontario Police Department. Not only is it going to be disbanded, many of them are going to federal prison, up to and or including the demons that's referring to him or herself as a chief of police, because you are not. You're a stalker by seeing an Ontario Police Department helicopter group stalking. And no one is going to mistake you for that. And no one is going to falsely and unjustly address you as a legitimate part of the executive branch representing law enforcement, a police department. You will not be addressed as that, because that's not what you are. That's why your group stalking me. And the body of evidence shows that. Mike LORENZ is, again, continuously witnessing, you are witnessing the ongoing systematic removal of terrorist leaders who are fully engaged in and aware of what's going on with the helicopters assigned to the department. Okay, there is no pattern. There is nothing other than a pattern of conduct when I have gone from city to city and county to county, and the demons in the specific environment. This is a full, comprehensive show of the pattern of conduct, and they're always arriving in helicopters over me. Okay, these demons know exactly who I am, and their mental illness is fully revealed while they do so in the face of evidence. And that's what the Ontario Police Department, that's what this demon with that third-party license plate that I recited, that's what that shows. And that's an outright disregard. You are letting the federal government know, not only by virtue of engaging in the pattern of conduct, living at a crime scene maliciously as a way of life, targeting another, posing a threat. By virtue of doing so, you are posing a threat to those minor children. The entity is engaging in that and exhibiting the fact that you are at a very severely mentally ill. Mental illness that is speaking to a level of malice that is lethal, that is diabolical. That's a threat to the public. You're a threat to yourself. You're a threat to those vulnerable in society. You're a threat to the public at large. That is what is working for the Ontario Police Department, and it is for the betterment of American society, for the city of Ontario, for the state of California, that it be disbanded, and that's exactly what's going to happen. It's currently, the current time right now is 11:09 p.m. And as I spoke to in the video, the relevant context about what the demons are doing is based on, again, documentation. The heavy-set, no-neck Caucasian female who lives in apartment 55 is engaged in 24-hour surveillance. And this is a demon-possessed, violent sex offender. She is stalking me as I go from room to room inside of this apartment. She is also monitoring the evidence. And so legally, as you are analyzing any stalker, you're going to analyze the body of evidence prosecuting the group stalker, who is the state, not just this heavy-set, no-neck Caucasian female who's going to federal prison representing the state and the people of the state. Okay, because not the entire police department is inside of apartment 55. Physically, The entire police, the entire state, the people of the state are inside of apartment 55. Elementally, as far as maintaining the elements of monitoring. Remember, it's the state's P.O.C. That's why they're stalking me in planes and helicopters. That's why they're stalking with regard to the police, fire, and ambulance vehicles. It's the entity that's engaged in group stalking directly. The entity is also group stalking vicariously on a ceaseless basis, all in the same exact demonic environment, which is not a natural environment. The sun is not rising and setting at one apartment complex. This is where an entity is stalking in helicopter. This is where an entity is stalking in commercial airline planes. This is where an entity is stalking while living at a specific environment. And this demon with the license plate that I recited, again, she acts with impunity. And she is vocally, okay, impliedly, it is as clear as you can communicate to the federal court, who is already, your custody of them is already in question based on your being a group stalker. But as you continuously engage in that, yet again, another video evidence, because I've caught this sex offender group stalking me before with her kids and the rest of her family, including them pacing all around under the fake sun. As I document, they engage in ongoing impunity. This is the mental illness of the demon possessed. They do not engage in standing down, ceasing to engage in it, correcting their wrongs. This is not what the government is doing. The government is leaning in and engaging in more violence, engaging in more terrorism, demonstrating your unfit status as a parent over a minor child who cannot defend or protect themselves. You will be removed from those children. And that's exactly what is being demonstrated while that demon walks right into apartment 41, also simultaneously representing the corporate actor AVANATH Capital Management LLC, who will also be subject to a civil prosecution for group stalking. Me, psychological torture with the corrupt police department flying over AVANATH Capital Management's real property, while AVANATH is group stalking with that state. AVANATH is going to compensate me. And damages, as a matter of policy, are designed to, they are intended to, their purpose is to punish and to deter and disincentivize state surveillance with a corrupt government that wants to murder and kidnap American citizens, while you think that you will make $1. You will not. You will not make any money. You're going to turn it all over. And the damages are designed to literally permanently fracture your establishment if it survives. All right. What you are doing as a matter of reputation, as a matter of published information, exposing corrupt companies as terrorists in the United States, that's going to do a whole other level of damage to the brand name, which again, the ordinary target individual who's supposed to be murdered or sitting around like a vegetable in a facility by the state that's targeting them, that's not the ordinary target individual's concern. It is justice, in other words. That's like the least value. You're talking about the value of a person, a human being with a soul, all right, and a business. Okay, the value of a business that's serving a criminal system, relevant, by the way, to RICO charges. So anyway, it is currently 11:13 p.m. This is regarding the video documentation that I captured. And the greater context is that at the same time that the demons are pacing in the sky space in helicopter, this demon in the document entitled WSA-the people are ceaselessly, the entire neighborhood, every commercial actor, the entire state is being documented while a sex offender in apartment 55, an entirely mentally deranged psychopath, is engaged in literally running around in circles, sounding as though she's tossing her body around. This is a demon-possessed person. Every move that I make, this demon is monitoring me. And then the demon that's inside of this apartment, Tracy Banks, who was monitoring her own daughter. And the reason why you're monitoring is because you're trying to murder someone maliciously, while you falsely depict that person as being suicidal, as being violent, and that's why they lost their life. The entity is maliciously targeting in order to murder and or kidnap you. That's why a mother is monitoring her own daughter. Be mindful of that. That demon is engaged in that ongoing targeting with that police department, with the demons that are at Woodside Senior Apartments. There is no respect of persons with regard to these are people who are over 55 and over. At this point in their life, you would think that they would be concerned about something else, like the fact that she has no neck. But she's not. She's up in the middle of the night, all night, never resting. This demon has her up 24/7. Do not be deceived when you are looking at a physical person leaned over on a cane or on a walker and you're documenting the ongoing stalking with audible activity. Do not be deceived by that. Their energy That ongoing endurance, these are demon-possessed people. And your age, under no circumstances, is legally relevant. Your criminal engagement based on the specific environment and the activity creation equals your federal prosecution. And there is no exception for anyone at Woodside Senior Apartments. These senior citizens are going to federal prison. Just like the entity at Alvarado Gardens, a similar venue, the exact same specific environment, which is speaking to an impossible occurrence with regard to a natural environment. And that's just by juxtaposition, isolating each of the venues. The sun is never going to be present at one address for we could just say 4 hours. Why is the sun still at the same apartment complex 4 hours later? That's not the sun. I have more than that. The entity is keeping the fake sun for 10 plus hours as I'm documenting the venues where you can readily identify stalking in helicopters. That's directly pointing out the state. This is the context. When I'm publishing video evidence of criminal summoning, that same corrupt police department is using a DUI check to engage in criminal summoning. They were stalking me. That's exactly what I pointed out, and that's exactly what the evidence, because you're looking at the elements of monitoring. Demons are the only ones that think that you are not going to be able to identify the fact that they're monitoring you because they have a box or a package or a baby in their hand. But you are no longer deceived by that, nor ignorant of the enemy's devices. Satan is acting through the government. Satan is acting through the very constituents of the state. And that's why I'm in the United States and in the state of California. All right. Outside of a constitutional construct, you're able to recognize Satan, that is the spirit, through the unnatural environment and through the behavior of those who surround. This is not this is demon possession beyond the ability to spiritually discern. This is demon possession you can identify through the outward behavior. The outward behavior, they're pacing all around, amplified audible activity, punctuating your any and every move, including that which is occurring on communication devices, in concert and on behalf of the state. The government, whatever government body form that takes. All right. But the entity is doing so with regard to knowledge who you are. Knowledge is not based on personal relationship, knowledge of the name. Knowledge is based on the targeting, which is identified through the environment and the activity that's all around. And while this sex offender goes from the parking lot into apartment number 41, impossible light activity is not the product of her headlights. But you'll recognize she gets out of the vehicle, and that is supposed to be under the guise of her headlights being that massive impossible light activity. That's a molestation and terrorism by a demon-possessed sex offender who's also monitoring my genitalia. And then that sex offender has custody of minor children. This is how you're going to create policies and enforce existing policies while the fact of federal group stalking and monitoring is exposed. And in California, it's going to be prosecuted. All right, it is currently 11:18 p.m. The entity engaging in ongoing terrorism because I'm publishing evidence. And as I move around inside of this I'm not at the hotel right now. As I move inside of this apartment, the entity in the way that I just showed is stalking in helicopters and stalking by the population living at the apartment complex with knowledge also of the evidence about it. And that is, again, terrorists who, in other words, they refuse to cease to engage in terrorizing you and stalking you and sexually violating you. That is not something that you're asking for. That is something that you're going to be required to do. You're going to federal prison. You will be permanently labeled as a terrorist in the U.S. so that everyone else will know the sex offender that's in their midst, the terrorist that's in their midst. For the greater good, for the public safety concern that exists amongst the mentally ill, that is demon possession, that is no longer a secret and capable of being identified through the environment and through the behavior, which is the conduct by the states in the United States. All right, it is currently 11:19 p.m. This is P.O.C. Ontario Police Department. I was getting ready to say Ontario Fire, but Ontario Fire is a group stalker as well. But the Ontario Police Department is group stalking. This is not a star. This is a plane that's stationary over the apartment building. While I'm in the kitchen, this is documentation that's equally probative against Michael LORENZ and the sex offenders that are currently employed by the Ontario Police Department that's going to be disbanded. And that is for over 5 years of domestic terrorism. And they use their helicopters and their demons because it's impossible to hear the Union Pacific Railroad at this location. You also know that it's monitoring because while you hear the train, And while I'm subject to what is rumbling of the apartment inside, this is my shadow that's upright. Remember, that's not the cause of the light fixtures you see here. Mike LORENZ is a demon-possessed group stalker monitoring my genitalia, and so is this demon representing the Ontario Police, and they're going to federal prison. Their name's going to be produced in the prosecution of the state of California. They are stalking, flying over a senior citizen complex at 10:51 in the evening, while a demon in apartment number 55 is monitoring me while impossible light activity surrounds. These are the elements of monitoring. No, only demons are monitoring. The Ontario Police Department is filled and employing the demon-possessed who are engaged in criminal surveillance. And this entire property is engaged in state surveillance. That's why a fake sun remains over this apartment complex from 7:18 in the morning until after 6 p.m., where amplification, which the municipality is speaking to the fact that it is a group stalker while the sound of the train is at this great distance, as though everybody that lives in Ontario is going to be disrupted in the middle of the night and at all times that the train is operating. And that's not. That's a demonic act of terrorism, which the state is going to be prosecuted for, while a demon and a helicopter is pacing back. This is the substance of the videos that you'll see published on YouTube right now that I documented in December of 2020, and the Ontario Police Department is also aware of that. It's not a coincidence that they're terrorizing me right now, flying over this apartment and now pacing back and forth like demons do in the specific environment. Specific environment includes not only the amplified audible activity in the form of the Union Pacific Railroad. Union Pacific is a group stalker, they're going to be prosecuted, but also the impossible light activity. This is your shadow that's upright, and also you have a shadow that's on the ground. This is speaking to what is crossing path. All the demons with their lights off, lights on, they're not engaging in any cessation in the pattern of conduct. And the group stalking with the city police, that is engaged in terrorism. And this is an illegitimate terrorist organization, just like the Los Angeles Police Department. And the Ontario Police Department engaged in a pattern of kidnapping while group stalking. That equals mandatory disbanding. All right, this is incriminating Mike LORENZ. He is not a chief of police. He is a terrorist leader, and he will be permanently removed from law enforcement. And the demons that are part of the Ontario Police, those that are stalking in helicopters, as I've documented over the years, under the fake sun, over the Walmart in Ontario, California, flying in circles over my vehicle, following me and stalking me over at every location in Ontario, including while my panties are down in the bathroom. All right, this is a sex offender, a police department, and these are sex offenders at a senior citizen complex. And the entity is acting in concert with the demon, just like this demon's pacing in a helicopter, is doing in apartment 55. She's up 24/7 under the fake sun all day long in engineer light, and at nightfall never ceasing to engaging in criminal conduct. This is stalking people where you live. That's what group stalking is. That's why the police department is stalking using a helicopter. I want to be clear, Paul Leon knows exactly what Mike LORENZ and the Ontario Police Department are doing with their helicopters, doing donuts in the sky space, flying over while you see engineer light like that. This is the mental illness by a demon-possessed entity that exhibits hostility, showing their criminal engagement with impunity, not helping the people, not helping themselves. Paul Leon is also going to be removed. This criminal conduct is happening on his watch. In case you did not know. Connecting all the dots for you, Paul Leon is a closeted sex offender who's also monitoring my genitalia. While a police department, what I am doing inside of an apartment in the specific environment, the police department in Ontario is engaged in state surveillance and not law enforcement, and that's why they're going to be disbanded. And the corrupt mayor that's engaged in criminal conduct with the police department in Ontario, California, he's not sitting in that seat either. The demon that's sitting on the same council board, the Ontario International Airport, that's stalking with the Ontario Police, he's not sitting on that position, and he's not staying on the council board either. This is criminal conduct by a public corruption exposed while a city is monitoring my genitalia, and that's the significance of seeing multiple shadows while I am standing upright, having nothing to do with the light fixtures. This is relevant to the elements of monitoring criminal conduct. While I'm walking around in the apartment, it's public information. While my panties are down, it's public information. While the police department is using their helicopters, using their police vehicles, that is expending resources, wasting money on criminal conduct. This is P.O.C, and this is the reality of demonic activity. And everybody that lives here is going to federal prison. That's surveillance, just stalking. And that, by the way, that's AVANATH Capital Management, who's going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted. With the police department, it's not a coincidence. In engineer light, it's not a coincidence. Where the fake sun rises and sets, it's not a coincidence. You're actually looking at concerted conduct, which they also include minor children in as well. This is the entity that's pacing in the sky space by planes. This is prosecuting the entire state, not just the demons of Paul Leon, of Alan D. WAPNER, of Mike LORENZ, of the police department, the fire department, as the entity is acting with the population, which is what this demon in a group stalking at apartment 41, this demon group stalking in apartment 55. The entities engaged in corporate engagement in the criminal elements of monitoring. This is Satan having the police department in a chokehold. This is Satan having the local government body in a chokehold, and they're going to be prosecuted under federal law for it. It is currently 10:56 p.m. Pay attention to what's being published onto YouTube in real time, because this is speaking to the mental illness of demons that have no business in law enforcement. It's going to be rectified in the prosecution of the state. But this is also an act of hostility to obstruct justice, because I'm exposing them in their ongoing obsessive endeavor of stalking me and my genitalia for years. This is P.O.C. All right, ongoing malice exhibited. As you can pay attention to the images, it's 11:19 p.m. Pacing and engineered light while pacing above in apartment 55 is underway. That's amplified audible activity, relevant positioning, and light activity by those whose name you know. That's an unlawful threat. The intolerable facilitation requires federal prison, and in this circumstance, it's going to be for the rest of the natural life. It's currently 11:20 p.m. This is P.O.C. That's federal stalking, monitoring the evidence, and also acting with the ongoing malicious engagement, trying to murder and kidnap one who you know. And then you're also monitoring that evidence. All of that is relevant to the ways in which you're going to prosecute that state. And this is what's occurring when you're looking at relevant positioning captured in the images. The demon in 55 is maintaining amplified audible activity, and they're doing so on behalf of the state that you see on video, and you can hear me narrating that video, in helicopters. The state is not taking a break. The state is up 24/7, stalking in helicopters, maintaining surveillance around this apartment complex, as I've already shown through the body of evidence. This is P.O.C.